Well, I see some new people on with us this morning. Thanks for joining us. And if you are joining us for the first time this morning, again, we're going over the Ninja Selling book by Larry Kendall, and we're breaking it into 10 weeks. And today we're going to be covering pages 83 through 105. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, who might have some gratitudes to share with us today?
It's Barb. I do. I'm grateful that the Packers beat the Saints last night. And I get a dinner because of that.
Wow.
I know.
Nice. So if the Packers lose, you're making dinner, I guess? Is that what that?
That would have been the case, but fortunately, that's not what happened.
All right.
Yay.
All right. All right. Who else?
I've got one, Neil.
All right.
I just went to Dallas last week. I was glad, very grateful to be able to travel safely and to visit old friends that I haven't seen in a couple of years, and just to have a totally relaxing, stress-free week.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. How about some of our new friends out there today? Rachel, I see you're on the call.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, good. I am thankful to be here. I am brand new to everything, brand new to Crye-Leike, and I am very excited to come in.
Excellent. Well, thanks for being with us this morning. All right. Well, let's move right into a little bit of review from last week. So did anybody have a Ford call to talk with one of their either friends or past customers, clients since last week? I specifically used the Ford acronym there: family, occupation, recreation, and dreams.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Marjorie.
Good morning. Anybody use that Ford in making a call last week? All right, I guess I'm gonna have to get on the phone with you and make sure you make some Ford calls this week.
I actually, I didn't make a call, but I had a group of 5 people come in Saturday and learned about it, and they were all so excited. So we're
Awesome.
passing it along.
Okay, well, thank you. Again, this is a totally natural way of conversation. You'll notice that as people are talking to you, they're going to use this same thing. It's just kind of a natural thing. You know, how's your family, your job, what are you doing for fun? You know, what are your dreams? Your dreams now might just be, what are you going to do when the whole COVID thing slows down?
This is Barb. Neil, a question. Do you do all 4 of them? Because I guess when I'll kind of focus on 1 or 2, I don't do all of them at one time. So is that a missed opportunity, or
I mean,
depends?
Possibly. I think it may be, it may be when you get to some of those other things, or I don't know what you're covering, you may prompt some people to think about something that specifically relates back to you, i.e. referring you business that they might not otherwise think about because you're not asking about it. So let's say, for example, you don't want to ask them about their occupation. Well, maybe asking them about that might trigger somebody they think about at work that's thinking about a house that now they remember to, hey, maybe I need to go back and refer that person to you. So I picked that up from I don't know if any of you ever done the BNI groups, Business Networking International, and there's other ones. I'm not specifically plugging that one, but I thought one thing I found out of that I thought was really interesting is that sometimes when, let's say it's an HVAC person, if they say the same thing over and over every week, you don't really think about anybody new to potentially refer to them. But if they say something a little different each week, it will trigger different people I might think of to refer them business. All right. And when we talk about forward and it relates to negotiating, we covered the 5 essential parts of a contract. So if we just break it down to make it sound kind of simple for people, who remembers what those are?
Prepping the house to get it in its optimal condition.
Okay, I'm thinking of
About price and terms.
Yep, that's what I'm talking about.
What?
I don't know who that was. Was that Beverly?
Yes.
All right, hit me with the rest of them.
All right, well, hold on a second. It'd be price, terms,
Oh, yeah.
closing date.
Yep, dates.
Um,
How about that? They're up there for you. So
Yeah.
5 easy
Inclusions,
things.
exclusions, contingencies.
Yep, that's it. So if you wanted to, this specifically, you could break it down for a buyer. So instead of making it sound super complex to think about writing an offer, really it's just 5 things we got to talk about. And now there's more than one thing under several of these, but you kind of get the idea. The way that you could also use forward in these is, when somebody gets hung up on one of these, whether it's price or a closing date or something that they want to include or exclude, bring them back to why it is they're wanting to buy or sell a particular property, and it might help you get past that in negotiating. All right, these few things came from the video last week, the value clarification question. And I don't know about anybody else on here, but I went back and actually watched that video several times because I liked it so well. I don't know if I'm saying that the right English, but I liked it enough that I created a little something to stick on my wall in my office right over my computer. And I sent it to you as a handout. So if you like those things, use it. But I believe that was a great question that was in the video with Larry. Do you believe your home will sell for a fixed price, or do you believe it will sell in a range of value? That is a great question to ask today when people might ask you for a discount or think that they don't even need a realtor. And if you don't have whatever your own 5 points of value are, you can just use those. And that's what, Barb, I think you were hitting on earlier, is that, those points of value as far as enhancing your property, pricing, marketing, negotiating, and managing the transaction. And these are probably on this little next slide right here. So just find a way to either memorize that or plug in your own there. If you don't like one of those, just have something that you can say when somebody asks you, why should I use you, Heather, instead of all the other agents out there?
So what is that, Elvis Presley?
Yeah, that was a little memory technique I was trying to. That was Elvis Presley, Memphis hometown.
Okay.
If one works for you, then use it. But I was just trying to. I try to use some of those little techniques to get me to remember things sometimes, so it helps me. Does anybody else have a good, 1-2 sentence, 30-second answer for us that you use all the time when somebody asks you, why should I use you over any of the other 12 realtors that I know? Why should I use you? Anybody got a great response to that? We have a quiet crowd this morning. I guess I'm going to have to just pick some people to share with us. Who's got one for that? Robert, you got something for us?
No, I'm just listening.
Just listen. All right. Nobody's wanting to talk this morning. A quiet crowd.
I don't really have a quick line or a terrific response every time, but I always have basically my report card with me. And I usually have given a little elevator quote, if you will, about, where I came from, and I had my own business there before I started real estate. So that's usually, I just refer back to that and refer back to the fact that I'm not a discount agent. I don't cut things out so that I can do things cheaper. I stick with what I have so that I can work within that realm and do everything I can to make sure that your house gets sold at a great price.
Great. Now you had one thing in there that I want you to expand on. You said your report card. Tell me more about that one.
Well, actually, I had a really good broker when I first started, Mo Home, and here in Bella Vista, and he had a Excel spreadsheet that was just incredible. It had its own listing analysis so that you could quickly put in different prices, and so that they could see what's your bottom line. And along with that, he had a recording in this database of all of his sales history, how many were buyers, how many were sellers, what was the amount how quickly had the date on market, DOM, and the percentage of list. And so I have that with me when I go and I present my listing proposition to them. I say, here's my report card. And generally that works. They look at that and go, oh, okay. I bothered to keep up with it. I bothered to prove it.
Nice. I like that.
Thank you.
Neil, I have something similar to that I use that breaks down for buyers or mainly for sellers is I have a spreadsheet that I deduct like the fee for service, our commission. I deduct what their approximate closing costs will be if they were to provide a home warranty for the seller and if they were to provide closing costs. And I give them that along with what would be if they didn't do a home warranty or provide closing costs, just so that they can visually see what their bottom line is going to be at the end. And, let them know that it's an estimate. But I think doing your homework with that kind of proves your value a little bit, that you've devoted enough time to let them know what their bottom line is going to be, not, just not here's the list price, and when they get to the closing table, be surprised. And I just kind of in a way tell them to compare apples to apples. Here are the services that I provide, and I leave it at there. If the other agent can provide more services than I do, then far be it. But so far we've been very fortunate to be able to get the listings that we go on once we go through and have that spreadsheet and more or less go over what we do to market a property and how we go about it.
Okay, excellent. Joanne, I want you to remind me later when we get to talking about the NAR home buyer, home seller report. Ask me about that on going on listings. So,
okay.
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and move on into our today's part, which starts with chapter 20 and building your brand. And we're discussing the four pillars, which are what you see in front of you: recognition, reputation, relevance, and differentiation. And Larry talks about most agents and most companies focus on those top two, and that ninja agents and ninja companies are going to focus on all four. So in addition to working on those first two, you need to figure out, how are you making yourself relevant? So I think you just heard some good examples of that. And I think on differentiation, in the vast majority of our markets, we are extraordinarily different than most of our competition.
I did make coffee too.
Certainly from the standpoint of full service. I don't believe, I'm going to just hit mute. So if you need to talk now, you can unmute yourself. But in most markets, there's not anybody even close to what we're offering as far as being a full service, non-stop flight, a one-stop shopping experience. So are any of you using those? What are you adding in for relevance or differentiation? I muted everybody, so you're going to have to either press your space bar or unmute yourself. And let's see.
Neil, one thing that I do is, and I know a lot of the Crye-Leike agents do this, is I really go in and go room by room, and once I have the listing and we're talking about what needs to be done and then the staging, and I'll bring in an interior designer at my expense, but there have been huge before and afters, and I could kick myself. I've never taken before and after photos. So that's something I'm going to start doing, because some of most of the changes are pretty drastic. And I think it would be very compelling to be able to show a seller, especially when they're in that, you know, kind of that overwhelmed phase of how am I going to get my house ready and get it sold and whatever, to be able to show before and afters.
Yeah, I totally agree. And if you're using, you know, whether you're doing your own photographs or whether you're doing professional photographs, if you do the before photo of one, you know, with your phone, and you do the after with the professional photographer, that's going to make it seem even more dramatic. But yeah, I'm constantly still amazed at some of the, as I'm sure you are, some of the photos that you see in the MLS where people don't bother to take stuff off the countertops or close the toilet lid or whatever it is. But if you can differentiate yourself and show, you know, here's the difference in this, because you have literally seconds online for people to, you know, figure out, are they interested in your house or not? And that's where their first showings are happening these days. So
I often do a drive-by beforehand and take a couple of pictures, and just try to take it all in, because sometimes we forget. And I've done this. I mean, I've gone in and gotten the listing, and we just start taking care of the inside and how great it needs to look. And then, you know, I got the pictures back and I was like, oh, really wish I'd had them move all those old empty flower pots and things like that. So I just started going, okay, checklist, start at the outside. And what do they need to do there? Because that is the first view once you get them to the house. Yeah,
absolutely. How many of you have, I'm sure many of you have been with people, you're showing them houses and they pull up to a house and they just say, no, not interested. Don't even want to go in. And then, you know, I don't know what y'all do, but you obviously need to call and cancel the appointment. And I always tell people, hey, I'm going to just go in and at least turn the lights off, because they, you know, spent time getting ready for us. And a lot of times when you do that, they may go through, but, you know, that curb appeal and what you see when you come up are definitely factors. So let's talk about the top 6 relevant services for sellers, and then we'll hit it for buyers. So I'm not going to read all these to you, but the 2 that I think are extraordinarily important would be the pre-listing packet and a pricing and marketing with predictable results. Okay. So one of the things that I like about this, and one of the things as we get into talking about the NAR home buyer home seller report, is if you know what people are looking for, then you should include some of that language in when they, you know, ask you what it is that you're going to do for them. Make sure you include some of those. So if these are the services that most sellers are looking for, then make sure you mention that you provide some or all of those services. So how many of you are using a pre-list packet? And I'm trying to figure out what the best way to, maybe you can just, you know, raise your hand or something. Hopefully you are. I think that would be incredibly helpful. So when we switch over to the buyer's side, most of these are actually going to stay the same. And there's a couple of differences. And really, instead of a pre-list packet, we're going to include a buyer's packet and then some type of a process for finding the right house. We're going to cover the buyer process a little bit later in the book for Ninja, but how many of you, or who's got a specific buyer process that they go through, or a seller process for that matter? Anyone using a specific process?
I have a meet and greet and sit down little PowerPoint presentation that goes through all the aspects of it and the process from start to finish. And especially for first-time home buyers, it's an eye-opener.
So you're doing this in the office, Valerie, or?
Yep, the old
Okay.
CITO, come into the office.
I like the CITO. One of my favorite sayings.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know what that is, tell them, Valerie.
Oh, come into the office at CITO.
Yep, that also works for, you know, when you're talking to fellow agents too, because some of them, I don't know, that's a little different now. I get it. But especially new people or newer people, you can pick up a lot of stuff just by coming into the office. And it's the same way for your clients. In you know, we have great locations, we have great offices. Even if you wind up going to, one of the things I love about our company is you can go into any of the offices. So if you're, you know, your client's on one part of town, but you're maybe on another, instead of making, you know, you can meet them at that office. There's lots of options, but getting them in the office, going over that process is critical. I think it's probably, especially for buyers in today's market, it is probably more important than ever before, because you need to start educating them on what they can expect in this process. And in almost all of our markets, in a lot of those markets in almost all price points, it is extraordinarily competitive. And the faster you can tell them that and show them that, it's going to benefit you and them in the long run. And hey, if it can help you by showing fewer properties to people, then I think that's a plus.
I've been considering putting it on YouTube with a voiceover and possibly even a, you know, little face-to-face thing, and be able to send them a link to it if they're from out of town, so that they can be prepared, and then we can sit down and find out if there's any questions. It kind of speeds it up. It's kind of like a pre-listing package going out. You don't have to spend as much time.
Hey, Neil, you were talking about being able to go into any office. It's not just here, but when I've been in Nashville, you know, you could even go in the offices in other cities. It's, you know, it's neat to be able to do that as well.
Yeah. So when you know, sometimes when you go out of town is the time when you get the busiest, right? And if you're working an offer and you need to stop in, then certainly in most cases you can do that. All right, so we're going to hit our first breakout group for the day. So what I want you to talk about, so either if you have a pre-listing packet or if you have a buyer packet. If you don't, I'm going to encourage you to get on that right away. But I want you to talk about what's the one best thing in there that you either like to talk about or you find that your customers, your clients find the most useful. So we're going to talk about that. For one of the things that came out in my breakout group was that, you know, maybe somebody, and I'm sure there's other people on there, and I have done this, I'm certainly guilty of this myself. Maybe it's somebody you know very well. So you say, well, I don't need to do a pre-listing packet, or I don't need to even do a listing consultation or presentation. Anybody else ever thought that? One of the things that I think is important is some of these people know you personally and won't hesitate to do business with you. But if you can just show to those people, and a lot of this is family and closer friends, take the time to do that extraordinarily professional version that you would do for somebody that you didn't know. Take the time to do that with these people, because now that these people know how professional you are, they may be more inclined to refer you to somebody else. Okay, so don't skip that step with people you know. All right, who Who heard something from somebody else in theirs that was just like, hey, that's awesome. I'm putting that in mine today. Anybody?
But that she always had a packet with her, always. And I thought, wow, that's, how often are we out? People see our name tag and say, oh, are you a realtor? I've been thinking about buying my first house or things like that. And sometimes it's a matter of, if you have a few minutes, I'll be happy to get a packet. You can kind of go over some things, but this will give you a good start. Or like the other lady that said she thought about doing a YouTube video. That's genius, I think. So that's what I heard.
Yeah, a lot of times, if you get a call at lunch today and somebody wants to talk with you this afternoon, just having it ready is going to make it a lot less stressful than trying to, run and put one together at the last second. All right. Anybody else have anything come up that they wanted to share?
I heard a good idea from Jody. Maybe she'd want to talk about it a little bit more, but she says she makes a map of all the houses that they're going to go see in a day, and she'll number each page for each house, and then she'll write the number on the map, and she'll kind of let them know where places are, like schools, restaurants, trails, that kind of thing, all on the map.
I like that. So a lot of times I think it's helpful if you can kind of visually orient somebody on a map, especially if they're coming to your area from out of town. That's going to be even more important.
My pre-listing packet is available as a PDF file, and I can email it to anybody anytime, and they can go through it.
That's a great idea. So especially if it's somebody from, and that's on the listing side, you said, Mark?
Yes.
So if you especially useful if he's got a out of town seller, no problem. I'll email that over to you, and you can look through it. Great idea.
Neil, I didn't actually have anybody in my group. One person was on mute the whole time. But one thing that I put in my pre-listing packet, I always have a sample flyer or brochure that I've done, either a front and back or a 4-page brochure. And then I do home books for my listings. And I'll have a sample home book with, that I can show to them as well. Those are two of the things that I do, that I think helps when I go on a listing presentation, when they can see the extent that I go to for marketing them.
Nice.
Is that something we could attach to our websites, what Mark was talking about too? That just having access to that, if you go to my website, you could link to that and get that information there?
I'll have to see. I mean, you could certainly, if you had it on, say, like a Google Drive, you could probably include a link on there. I don't know. I'll have to check that out.
Neil, I think you probably could do a custom page on the Crye-Leike website and do it there, because I have some custom pages with links and it works fine.
Thank you so much. All right, we're going to move on here. Again, the ninja strategy, becoming more relevant, more customer centric, and basically giving them what they want. So if you kind of know what they want, then you can certainly give it to people, and certainly remember to mention it if you think it's one of those things that they will want. Now, next chapter in 21 talks about being a proactive, trusted advisor. So showing up, paying attention, keeping your commitments. One of that last one there, don't get attached to the outcome. One of the things that I love out of Ninja is the little saying that we control the process and they control the what. Who remembers this? I think we've talked about it before. We control the process, they control the
outcome.
Close.
Results.
Decision.
Thank you.
Ah.
So that is something that, I think you cannot say that too many times. You don't necessarily have to say it to your customers or your clients, but you might need to say it to other agents in the office. I know I was talking with some folks last week, and it was the agent stressed out over something. And I just said, hey, remember, we control the process. They control the decision. So whether they do, you know, X or Y, you just explain it to them and it's their decision. So it will relieve some of the stress off of you that real estate can put on you sometimes. All right, then we're getting into the third principle in this next section of the book, and it's basically the getting into the mindset that you are swimming in abundance, and it talks about average transaction rates. And so my takeaway for this is that if you don't kind of know what the transaction rate is for an area that you specialize in, I would encourage you to go to the MLS and calculate it. And it's simply, you know, for a given neighborhood, for example, it's just the total number of homes and then how many transactions happened in a 12-month period. And that would be the transaction rate. But again, it's getting into that mindset that you're swimming in abundance. And there, you know, if you got a 15% transaction rate, that's about 30 transactions for every 200 homes, or homes that know you, or at least aware of you, and your mission is to find those. All right, we're going to move on to chapter 22. So under the category of working smart, we're going to focus on, we're going to try to focus on the highest return activities. So you're going to need to, you know, look for some of those subtle and hidden things in working with and conversations with your past clients, your you know, open houses, whatever it is, personal contact with friends, so that those items that generate a higher return, that's what you're going to focus on. And one of the things that I have used a number of years, and if you're a broker on the call, you need to go to nar.realtor and download this report. Now, sometimes NAR sells this report. I think that earlier in the summer, it may still be going on, they were giving away a lot of the stuff that they normally charge for this year. So if you have never seen or heard of this, I encourage you, go to nar.realtor and download this report. It has a treasure trove of information. And again, if you're a broker on the call, there's probably 5 or 6 sales meetings worth of material in this. And so I follow a lot of these specific reports, but so here's one example of a survey question. You know, what is it that sellers want from their realtor, right? So, and I know this may be a little bit hard to read for you on this slide, but the first one is help seller market the home to potential buyers, help sell within a specific time frame, help price the home competitively. So my point is, the top 3 or 4 of these are around 20%. Make sure you say things like that when you're going on a listing presentation or a listing consultation. Make sure that they know that you're going to help them with those things. So who knows this one? And as I pop a few of these up here, I know you'll get it. But people want to work with people they what?
Know, like, and trust.
Yep. And then we're going to throw in, we're going to add in flow with. Okay. That it's not necessarily more important, but it's equally as important, because I know that maybe there's somebody that's been doing this for more than 5 or 10 years that has never missed a potential client, but I find that doubtful. we all probably have people that we thought know, liked, and trusted us, and they bought or sold with another realtor, right? So you've got to stay in flow with those people. And what's somebody else's explanation or definition of being in flow with someone?
Get along with, feel comfortable with.
I would say it's in contact with them, so that when you talk about the Ford questions, you're around, they're thinking of you, you're going to be one of the realtors that's top of mind because you're connected at some point.
Yeah, I like that connected part, because it is somebody that you're going to be basically the top of mind person when they make that decision to buy or sell. You need to be that top of mind person. So great. Thanks for that, Barb. When we talk about building trust, we've got four C's up here: character, competence, capacity, and consistency. So, one of the things specifically about capacity, don't ever whine or complain about being too busy. People don't want to hear that. Nothing irritates me more than going to let's just say it's a restaurant, and the server's complaining about how busy they are, especially now. I don't think that's the case, but don't be that person that's complaining about being too busy, because you don't want people to think that you're too busy to work with them. There's certainly things we can all do things to work on bettering our competence in certain areas. And, for the most part, we could probably, do a better job on consistency. Just try to be very consistent in how you're working with people, and especially how you're communicating with them.
So, Neil, I have a question.
Sure.
Some of this stuff is, when you're meeting somebody for the first time, it's a listing presentation. It's hard for someone to really ascertain that when you look at consistency or capacity. So, it's like you can tell them you've got character, or that, hey, I got a lot of letters after my name for competency. But with capacity and consistency, what is it that can help someone see that or illustrate it?
Who's got an answer for that? I'm specifically thinking maybe of something that you might have in a buyer packet or a pre-listing packet.
Is that your report card?
Could be your report card.
Testimonials. Use the testimonials.
Absolutely. There it is. Thank you, Carolyn.
You're welcome.
Okay.
It's exactly what I was thinking of. So whether it's, having a link in your signature, in your email signature, or having a handful of testimonials in either your buyer packet or your listing presentation. And basically what I would do is hand pick those. So ones in your listing presentation are going to talk about selling a home. Ones in your buyer packet are going to talk about buying a home. And you might even think about hitting some different categories. So for example, let's hit on the buyer side. What are some different things on the buyer side that you could hit on? So I'm thinking specifically about things like, maybe it was for somebody that's moving in from out of town. Maybe it's a first-time buyer. Maybe it's a move-up buyer.
The process of getting the whole process of buying a house, getting from getting qualified to closing.
Yep, there you go. So think about just sharing. Really, if you share 4 or 5, just one page worth of testimonials, you can hit that, right? Mm-hmm. And just like I think people will tend to trust, especially in the age of the internet. People trust, I know my wife will not book a hotel, and every time I book a hotel somewhere, did you look at the what?
Rating.
Did I look at the rating, the reviews? Did I look at the feedback, especially if it's some like a, Airbnb or something like that? But people look at that, and it's more important now than ever. So great way to do that, I think, would just be let others tell your story. And with our tool on Testimonial Tree, that's a great way to do it.
Neil, I think another thing too is when we get in front of the people, and you have to be able to get to the place where you're I heard someone say one time, belly button to belly button, but use the Ford method. Let them understand that you are interested in them. Let them see and set the expectations for them. I mentioned with sellers, you know, I let them know on the front end, you're going to hear from me every Friday. We're going to have a conversation every Friday, and this is what we're going to talk about. During the week as your home's being shown, I'm going to send you the feedback and all that we're getting. But we're going to discuss these things because this is what we're going to do on Friday so that we're ready to make any adjustments that need to be made before the weekend. But, you know, sometimes, you know, if we jump out of the car and we've been revving ourselves up for this appointment and all that, we've got to get ourselves back to a place where they don't feel like they need to get on a treadmill to keep up with us and to keep our attention. And we move into their mode and let them get comfortable with us.
Great points. I love that, Susan. And to me, that was screaming consistency and competence. So, and more importantly is she's going at it from a standpoint of asking questions and being more interested in them than bothering to sit there and blah, 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 all about you. So great job. Thank you. All right. So one of the things that I have followed over the years, and these numbers are actually out of the 2019 Homebuyer Home Seller Report from NAR. They are close, but a little bit different than what you found in the book. But the question is this: would the seller use the same real estate agent again or recommend that agent to others? If you look at people that said either definitely or probably, and they do this I think about 30 days after closings is when they send these out, right? Definitely or probably equals 87% of the time. Now, how many of those people actually used the same agent that they used before? 27%. So basically 60% of the people we are losing it. I say we as an industry, right? And what's the reason behind that?
Flow.
Yep, flow. Absolutely. The scary thing is the buyer percentage is even lower. But it's flow. So once somebody comes to the decision of engaging in either buying or selling, basically they have within, give or take, 72 hours is when they're going to make that decision to reach out to the first person, right? And so it's who they're in flow with at that given time that they're most likely to reach out to. Now, one of the things that I just remembered that I brought up earlier was on the listing side of things. When they make a decision to talk to somebody, this is straight out of the NAR Homebuyer Home Seller Report, what percentage of the people only talk to one agent before they decide to list? Anybody know? Or can guess? It's probably higher than you think.
80.
Yeah, 75% is the most recent number. Yeah. So my point of that is, if you're going to talk to somebody about a listing, be first. Be first, because if you're not, you may not get a chance to go. So be first. All right. So I'm going to this is the question that I'm going to use on this little second breakout group. I'll put you in some bigger groups. But what are you doing to stay in flow with people who know you and or your past clients or customers? What are you doing to stay in flow with those folks? So let's see. I'm going to just put, before we get to that, one of the things that I would encourage you to do if you're not using this is, our marketing department will sit with you and create a 12-month plan based on a budget that is workable for you. So whether that is, they've got some other materials here, that's whether that's, doing 4 mailings a year or 6 mailings a year or 12 mailings a year, whatever it is that can fit into your budget, there is something there for everybody. And that makes it's extraordinarily easy. If you wait and try to decide what you're going to do every month, there's probably a good chance that you're going to miss some months there. So who heard some things? Who heard something that they really liked and they want to mention?
Just making phone calls to prior clients. It doesn't cost anything. It's free, and it's very important. And I don't do it enough.
One of the things I saw in the last couple of weeks is from specifically from Ninja Selling, it was just reaching out to clients and talk about, how are you feeling? And just leave it as open-ended as that. How are you feeling? So whether that, again, it's probably going to relate back to their family, their occupation, their recreation, their dreams, but how are you feeling? So,
trends, using trends after closing, the program we have for clients that stay local.
Yep, absolutely. That's right here. That trends campaign, it's a 7-year campaign, and I think it's $25 or $35 to sign up for it, and it's $25. Yeah, thank you.
One time.
So that's probably the single best thing that you can do right there if you're a newer person starting out, is get signed up on that and put all your people in that. That is a no-brainer thing, and you can take that out. They'll just take it right out of your check, and you've got something in there for those folks.
And Neil, whenever they have a sale on trends, which they do occasionally, I just buy a whole bunch of them because I know I'm going to use them every time.
Interesting. I haven't seen that yet, but thank you for bringing that up. Anybody else?
I was going to say with trends, in one of these sessions, there was an agent that said that they send trends to the other side if it's not a Crye-Leike agent, because they assume that the other agent's not going to stay in touch with them. So, I mean, and that might be something to consider because you know their address.
Yeah, adopt a client.
Adopt a client, yeah.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah. I don't know the success rate on that, but there you go.
So next week we're going to be talking about some additional things to stay in flow, but these don't have to be complex things. So it can be things like making a phone call, but it's things that are easy to do and they're easy not to do. And then next thing you know, you could turn around and have somebody that was a client of yours 10 years ago, and you realize maybe you're mailing some stuff to them, but you hadn't talked to them in a while. So, but never hurts, never too late to jump back in and get in touch with these people. All right. Well, we are about at our time today, so we're going to go ahead and wrap up next week on October the 5th. It's amazing that it's going to be October already soon, but we're going to cover 106 to 131. I'll leave you with one other little idea you can use to stay in flow with people that I've done several times over the years is little pie pumpkins that you can buy at the grocery store or your local farmer's market or whatever for literally for $1 or $2 or $3. You could do some little pie pumpkins and take those to people as a little happy pop-by gift. Something inexpensive, stay in flow type item that, hey, might get you some business.